Alright, we got two packages. Each one with only a single Blu-ray in it, I believe. But we'll have more to show in this one. I mean, any of you who watched the description, and who knows, maybe the thumbnail of this video will also show it, I don't know. But, maybe I should have just taken a couple things off, because the Blu-ray's in here sideways, but there we go. Alright, so to get to the anime real quick, we've got Tweeny Witches on Blu-ray. It's an interesting show. Guess there was something about it that always felt a little off, but otherwise it's kind of nice, so I do appreciate seeing it again. I really like the opening. Kind of got two openings, really. One of them that's kind of a history of the world, region A, English and Japanese stereo, so dub and sub. But yeah, a sort of prequel thing. And it's a very strange slipcover. I'm not sure why exactly it feels strange. Like it's thicker than it should. Or maybe because see, there's this thing here. Is this a part of the slipcover? Is this something stuck inside? It's not coming out, so I'm just trying to make sure. I'm very careful in ensuring that I'm not taking it apart. Okay, I do feel something sticking there. Yeah, see, it was stuck, and it's still stuck together somehow. I can see that there's pages to this thing, but... Artwork. Okay. The only question I have is this a manufacturing defect of some sort? Or... did this maybe get dipped in glue or something? Oh, very strange. I think it might be a manufacturing process thing, just because, you know, I see that, but I think I can see here there's no separation, so I think it's folded in on itself. And I think they accidentally just, the glue ran a little bit to stick this to the thing. So I think there's just a manufacturing defect in that. Which is unfortunate, but I guess it's okay. I guess we already looked at all that stuff. Let's see. Can I reattach you to that? I don't know if that succeeded or not. I didn't hear the click. It looks like 3 discs. Well, that's not quite going in the same way it did, but I guess it's close enough. And then we've got Platinum End Part 2. I see a region A plus B there. That's some really small text. It says episodes and bonus. Video, audio. So that's audio. I'm still not used to reading these. It looks like there's an English dub there. Oh, it's different underneath the slipcover. Kind of nice. Disc 3 and Disc 4. Line images. I'm otherwise not sure what to think of the series itself. It's certainly an interesting name. And while you might think, okay, that's everything, but I had another thing arrive today, and let's see if I can actually show it. It's this Axiom Verge 2, you know, that's what it says right there, limited edition set from Limited Run Games. And I can kind of feel these Blu-rays are a little unstable on the bottom. I'll move them aside for the time being. And then, being very careful here, making sure this scissors pointed up. The sharp parts are so I don't, like, mix the box. If I do, it's unfortunate, but, you know, that's just the thing, the natural. But it's a pretty big box, so I'm not quite sure how well I'll be able to show it on the camera. Okay. Yeah, have I ever looked at the back, I wonder? That front has been very tantalizing. Traverse the Breach includes game, shadow box, action figure, steelbook, 2 art cards, 2 Curiosity enamel pin, soundtrack, behind the scenes art book. Before I dive too much into that, I also got these. I've got Thank You for Being Rad, so that's Limited Run Games 1 thing, Limited Run some other thing, and then the collectible card, which I need to hold on to this because I do eventually, once I dig the actual thing out, I think, is this the shadow box? Uh-oh. I mean, it's not a bad uh-oh, it's just a... I heard something shift when I took that out, so it was a little tricky to put back in, I think. That's the pen. I think I'm not quite sure what that would be, absent having seen the, you know, or played the game. And if you're curious, it's my understanding it's not a sequel to the first one. As in, like, you know, if you're kind of curious what else might have happened after that first one, what it might have meant. I'm not sure how much answers you get from this one. That said, I'm not sure if you get no answers either. Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to be putting things back inside this box or not. It's certainly convenient for holding a lot of this stuff. Sorry. Put that aside. We've got Axiom Verge 2 behind the scenes. Cards. You know, just briefly looking over it, as I am wont to do. Let's get these back in here somewhere. Neat. So this is the Steelbook, and this is their Switch release itself. You know, I don't think I'm going to put them back in there. Like, even the dark box, I think it's designed to be... Is that what they called it? Okay. It's definitely designed to be shown, displayed independently. Here's a physical game. Traverse the Breach. And yeah, the Breach was something from the first game, so I think it's probably a different sort of story within the same sort of universe. Whether or not it's Metroidvania like the first one was, I'm not sure. That certainly makes it look very Metroidvania-esque. And let's see. Where did I put that? There it is. I already buried it over on the side here. I was worried this might be messy. Let's see. I think I put this in there. Actually, before I go too much further, I think I transfer them all over to the Steelbook. And the only unfortunate thing about the Steelbooks is I would really like the Shantae Steelbooks. because I have a couple of them, and I really want the others. That's just the completionist in me speaking. Let's see. This looks like the soundtrack. Two discs, which seems a good bit more than the first one. Like, I think the first one was only one disc, so that's kind of nice. Let's see. Looks like nothing else in that box, and then it's just whatever's in this box. I do feel something here. This looks like an action figure. Not knowing the character, don't see myself displaying this one anywhere. She may end up staying a collectible that nobody will care about, but you know, that's kind of cool. No, I guess that's just light. So then that's everything in this box, and I think I can take these out, because I think as long as these are empty, these can be tossed to the side to eventually be recycled. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything else. So then let's see. And this I'm going to keep. I'm going to put to the side over here so you'll see it during the other thing. Yeah. So that was an interesting little unexpected thing. Other than that, here's this week's anime Blu-ray collection update. Alright, y'all couldn't see it there anyway, so I went ahead and moved it because it was getting in the way of my seeing that computer. So, let's talk about the anime I watched. And I ran out of steam this week and didn't watch absolutely everything that I normally keep up on, so any surprise? There's some of this stuff that's been kind of but let's see. Demon Slayer, Swordsmith's Village Arc, Season 3, Episode 2. Jesus Christ, I am starting this off in the most awkward way ever. I guess just reading it off like that. So I guess it's a testament to my exhaustion and part of the issue going on here. Stress levels through the roof, etc., etc. But let's see. I did enjoy Episode 2. Interesting twists and revelations and things that, you know, were worth thinking about, I guess. Yeah, overall, really like it. I'm liking how Season 3 is continuing. ReZero movie, The Frozen Bond. See, I thought this was a sequel movie, but it's actually a prequel movie. And the name kind of makes sense, because it's really about the relationship between Amelia and Puck. And, you know, it was an okay movie. Maybe not the best thing out there, but, you know, the problem is some of the best stuff that came out of it, you know, like in Season 2, they really can't explore too much in a prequel movie because, you know, they need to explore it there. So, you know, it's somewhere in between events, but for what happened, it was entertaining. You know, not the best out there, but still entertaining. Sacrificial Princess and the King of Beasts, Episode 8. I felt like this was a very nice episode. Just very pleasant. This is the sort of thing I kind of want to see the show doing. I liked it. Kamikatsu, Working for God in the Godless World, Episode 9. After the previous episode, this one was a follow-up and had that stuff. Okay stuff, I suppose. You know, it didn't do anything too extravagant with the touchy stuff that happened in the previous episode, but it was just kind of there and kind of nice, and it's like, yeah, and that stuff wasn't the main focus, so I do appreciate it didn't dwell on it. It was just nice that it managed to do that even once. Let's see, I didn't watch the next episode of Konosuba, An Explosion on This Wonderful World. I guess I just ended up on the list, but never quite happening, and I might be able to catch up on it tomorrow. We'll have to see what tomorrow is even like. But The Legendary Hero is Dead, Episode 10. I guess this one kind of built stuff together and had stuff that's been happening. Now it's leading up to some sort of big season finale core kind of thing. A lot of stuff has come together. But it's okay. Definitely better than where I'd say it started. Is it wrong to try to pick up Girls in a Dungeon? Season 4, Episode 19. very nice episode, I would say. Kind of returning back to some of the themes and ideas that have been making this part of season 4 actually really nice, and focusing on the part that I have been interested the most in, and doing a good job with it, I would say. So, good job on season 4. Continuing. Dr. Stone, season 3, episode 8. Yeah, it's interesting waiting to see as it continues, but it's at a point where it's definitely a little more person versus person sort of thing, and I just need, I'll want to see where it goes with that. Of course, it'll probably be fine. It was fine before. It's just kind of nice when it's, gaining steam and going a different way, and stuff like that. My One Hit Kill Sister, episode 10. I guess some relatively entertaining stuff happened there. I think the main problem with the series is it still doesn't feel like there's like a destination or a direction per se, but I guess some of what you could say is lighting around is assembling together. And I don't know that it's feeling like it's assembling for a finale or anything like that. Just kind of interesting elements coming together, I suppose. I ended up not watching the latest episode of Mashal. Rokudo's Bad Girls, episode 10. I guess it's a bit of a story progressing forward. Maybe a little bit frustrating, but that might just be me and not necessarily that the show's being bad. Entertaining things that happened in this episode, but some of it's just like, I don't know, sometimes you just feel like people are bad people, and are they waste of space or something like that from a perspective of the show you're watching. Sorry about the hiccups or the burps. It's kind of a little bit of both. I didn't watch the latest episode of Too Cute Crisis. Hell's Paradise, episode 10. Absolutely loved it. Let's see, can I remember what all happened in it? Mostly dialogue, characters, building up something that's like, okay, this is a little bit of an explanation for stuff going on. It doesn't completely explain everything, but it's enough so that it at some level it is reducing the mysticism a little bit. But at the same time, our characters are saying interesting things, making interesting observations. There's interactions happening that are continuing to be interesting, and overall, still a great show. Summoned to Another World for a Second Time, episode 10. I think this episode is kind of a good example of maybe something that's just wrong with the series in general. It's like this one episode, you can kind of feel like it tries to explore like 3 different themes, but it never focuses on any one of them enough for most of them to feel like they matter. Like, is this supposed to be an episode about the other kids going to war for the first time? Well, it kind of expresses that, but then it doesn't focus in on that enough to really have that be a actual thing. So it's just kind of, maybe, is it about this one specific bad guy character? Well, that seems to be where it ended, but then it's like, already moving on to the next thing, and our main character saying things that are kind of applicable, but also they just don't feel like they apply. So, it's kind of the problem with the show. I think this episode gives them a lot more. I'm not necessarily thinking that it's going to a good core season finale or whatever it's going to do, but I guess we'll have to see it. The Aristocrats' Otherworldly Adventure, Serving Gods Who Go Too Far, episode 11. Let's see what specifically happened in this one. That. I guess it's stuff that's suddenly progressing towards, conclusion for the season finale and maybe the next episode. I mean, it's been kind of sort of leading up to that, but what specifically the final confrontation is supposed to lead up to is kind of in question. But, yeah, it's okay. In Another World with My Smartphone, season 2, episode 11. An okay episode. This time it's about solidifying another confirmed member of our character's harem. I mean, I think it's pretty obvious who the members of our character's harem are supposed to be because the opening, I think, gives it away. But as for the execution of it, I thought it was okay, given... like, the show has these characters, it's just sort of like... Yeah, do they just kind of accept the fact that there's going to be another member of his harem? And it's not even like a, oh, well, they're competing for him harem. It's legitimate, they're all going to marry him harem. And it sort of made some sense earlier on, and so whenever they bring a new character in, it's kind of like, well, how does this feel? And if there's any problem I'd have with it, it's that, you know, it's just sort of like, oh, well, the show sort of takes for granted that this latest girl is going to be his wife. Whether or not he would say, oh, yes, I would definitely do that, you know, he kind of got strong-armed into some of it to a certain degree. And this one sort of feels like it, but I think they had an interesting twist to the way they introduced it and did it. That's just like, okay, at the very least, they're not doing the same thing all over again for every character. It's just like, oh, you're going to be a wife too? Get in the line. We'll get you all married. Just, you know, wait. You know, they're not doing anything quite like that, so it works okay. I'm just trying to think what happened at the very end of the episode, if something happened that would indicate what the end of this season is going to be like. It's really hard to say. There's a lot of risk that it would do something that's bad, like if it completes the main story too quickly or something like that. But there's a part of me that feels like it's intended to go longer than 2 seasons. Now, what exactly Season 3 would be, I'm not exactly sure, but maybe I've got some ideas. I got a cheat skill in another world and became unrivaled in the real world 2, episode 11. So I think I read that this was a 12 or 13 episode season. Like I think I said, the main issue with that is mostly just its pacing is such that it's definitely nicer to binge, I think. And maybe some of the ideas of that are our main characters finally doing things such as actually going to a town in the other world and interacting with villagers and discovering some things like that, like obtaining currency and finding out stuff and registering for this or that. And, you know, it's 11 episodes in, and I think it's all part of more of a setup for where it's going to go at the end of this season or this core or something. And it's not bad. But it's definitely a much more relaxed pace. Meanwhile, it spent a lot more time in the isekai world than expected, and the real world stuff, I think there's stuff hinted at there, which I don't know if I would describe that as set up for a finale of some sort, or just more shenanigans to eventually happen in probably another season. Excuse me. But there was also a little thing they did that's just like, oh, well, this is suddenly happening. And it's just so casually executed that it's entertaining and kind of good. It's like, I guess, a refreshing way for it to handle some of that stuff. But I don't want to talk about too many details. I'm trying not to spoil things. Why Riley and I ended up at the Duke's Mansion, episode 10. I thought this was an overall fun episode. Where it did a lot of things that are very shoujo-esque, and it did some of them from an angle of the rules of this world. But I think what makes this episode work, and the stuff that happened in the previous episode leading up to it as well, is that to a certain degree it is taking advantage of the fact that our main character is resurrected in this world for all intents and purposes. Like, I think it does a good job of saying, okay, this feels fresh because it's staying somewhat relevant to that stuff. And I do believe what it's set up for the next couple of episodes, which would be a kind of core season finale, maybe a series finale. It's really hard to tell. It could do all of those pretty well. But yeah, it's leading into something that will be the end of the 12th or 13th episode or something like that. Now, somewhere around that ballpark, and in that regard, it's not bad. Let's see, Dead Mountain Deathplay, episode 10. Like I said, the previous episode had some things about it that are just like, okay, are you done setting things up? Okay, and are we seeing what makes our main character kind of cool? Not too strongly. A little bit in there, but then, you know, they had a nice stinger at the end, and what was going to happen in this episode was definitely a big question. And I wouldn't say that anything too exciting happened per se. Mostly a lot of setup for what's about to happen because that stinger happened. If that makes sense. And the show's been kind of like that, I think, even from the very first episode. But it's been nice, even though some of that stuff there's not giving us, you know, that stuff we immediately want to consume. So, that's a good thing. Definitely curious where it's about to go, because it's also setting up for its season or core finale. Maybe series finale, I don't know. Part of me kind of hopes it's not a series finale, because I feel like the show could do more interesting things. Now, what those are, I'm not sure, but I feel like the show's up to the task. The problem is, I guess it has set up stuff that could be seen as, you know, maybe things being resolved by the end of the season. I guess we'll have to see where these next couple episodes go. Assuming there's more than one. You know, you never know when one of these shows ends up being an 11-episoder. It's not unheard of. It happens sometimes. But yeah, outside of that, you know, I didn't watch anything else. Mostly, let's see. So, I've been doing some Dead by Daylight because the day I post this video is also the day when the next Dead by Daylight chapter comes out, and I just need to make sure I've got things lined up for that. Not the hardest I've ever worked for it, but definitely I've got a lot of blood points saved up so that when the new chapter comes out, I should be able to dump them all in the Singularity and bring him... Excuse me. Bring him up to Prestige 3. I'm just trying to remember if that's the right terminology. I'm blanking right now. Because there's prestiges and tiers, and I think prestige is the correct word. I apologize. There's something kind of itchy there. So, you know, I'm here right now. I'm not quite at 2 million blood points, but I'm pretty damn close. And I've got unclaimed challenges and lots of iridescent shards, which I will dump into the Shrine of Secrets to gain more blood points. Overall, I should be able to dump a lot of stuff into the Singularity to get him up there. And then Mr. Soma, I should be able to get some stuff into him as well. I'm not sure if I'll get stuff into him. We'll just have to see what the order of things is there. So, there's that. And then, of course, as you can guess, I've been playing a lot more Tears of the Kingdom. And I've been enjoying it. I set a goal last week of I wanted to build an orbital death laser, and part of my I guess map to do that was to max out all my energy cells, because once you do that, then you can just start spending excess processed energy or whatever on arbitrary capsules. I mean, I can dump them into capsule machines and get a lot of capsules that way as well. But I kind of wanted to open up all the possibilities. And the math for, okay, do I turn normal Zonite into charges or not is pretty obvious. No, you don't. Because if you have one item that you're missing, and you're going to create it using the auto build, it requires 3 Zonite charges just to create it out of thin air. But if you were to instead spend those Zonite charges to get a capsule, it would take 9 of them to do it. So literally 1/3 the cost to just create a thing. And how big are these, how much do these orbital death lasers cost? Only 63 ore, which is quite a bit if you don't have a surplus. But I think right now my surplus is over 400 with some stuff, so I'm fine. I just need to go and decide what I'm going to nuke. And, you know, that's pretty much it. The biggest thing I've taken out so far is I did the floating Coliseum, and got Majora's Mask. Maybe I didn't want to reveal that much information, but you know, if those of you who played the game know why that one's a big one. Obviously, the orbital death lasers don't quite work for it, but that's why I use a wall-mounted death laser thing instead, and that worked. They died. I wish I could say that I got a lot of freebie, but I guess sitting around letting things explode for a while, I didn't get all the pickups, so I probably should have gone down and picked up pickups as people died. Oh well, moral of the story. But, you know, I had seen a video on how to do it before, and I did a lot of experimentation and pretty much figured out, yeah, what the video says is pretty much what you want to do. So, that's what I did. And now I've beaten it, and it's kind of happy, and I need to decide what to beat next. But no energy to try to do that tonight. And that's been the real problem. And if you're curious, I'm pretty sure it's a depression thing. I mean, I think to some degree I've been depressed for multiple decades of my life, but I've handled it pretty well. So it's not like clinical depression, just a kind of something else, maybe. And take all this with a huge grain of salt, because this is a self-evaluation, and obviously, well, I know certain things about myself too well. Whether or not I'm using the right language to describe what I'm doing is definitely, or what I'm experiencing is definitely up there. And with the stress of the past month and the past couple of weeks especially, I don't have the motivation to do much, which sounds like a very classical description of depression. And while it's something that I can sort of power through because I just always know what step I need to do next, it's that sort of take one step at a time sort of thing. It's been pretty bad this past week, and most of that is the lack of energy, and well, I guess I'm just anticipating what this week is going to be like. My company's doing a return to office thing, and that's actually not too bad for me, because they literally are like only 5 to 10 minute drive away from me. I don't even have to get on any major highways. That's pretty damn good for going into office thing. My worries have been more if I have a lot of faith in the direction of the company in general. You know, they're saying things that makes it sound like the company itself isn't like pressed or anything like that, but I can't help but feel like there's an awful lot of idealizing of things out there that I'm not sure if that's the way things actually are. For example, pointing out that, oh, these other big companies are doing return to office, and repeating their same reasons, but there's a lot of people that have doubts that those companies are doing a return to office for the reasons they're saying. It's kind of a dishonest thing, and am I at a point where I'm wondering if upper management is dishonest or not? I'm not sure. I know what my line in the sand is, and I certainly hope they don't end up crossing it, because I've drawn it a couple of times, and the company I've worked for has gotten close to them a couple of times, but yeah, I don't know. It's sort of like being in a state where you're about to start a new job, if you know that feeling, but not ever getting the downtime, because I'm still in the middle of working the job. And there's some of you that probably know this. If you're like working for a job and you're going to switch over to another job at the very end of it, it's probably stressful as fucking hell. And yeah, that's pretty much what I'm going through. And it makes it hard for me to feel motivated to watch anime, especially if it's not an anime that I'm interested in seeing more. And one of the nice things about all the Monday animes is I'm interested in seeing more of them. So at least I didn't stagnate, and I've managed to continue to make progress on Dead by Daylight. And Tears of the Kingdom, that's a different matter, because Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom are both games where you just kind of zone away into them and escape from reality. And I guess capture Pura and move her to a hot spring. But I think that's for people who are a little horn doggy. But it is quite amusing that people have managed to do that. Very dedicated people out there. But yeah. So I'm not sure what this next 7-day period is going to be like for me. I mean, hopefully I still have the energy to continue watching all the shows I've been watching. But yeah, we'll have to see. I've done a bad job tonight of even recording this video at an appropriate time. I wasn't even really doing anything, just kind of zoning out. I wasn't even playing Tears of the Kingdom. But, yeah. Sometimes, again, we just have to keep taking one step after another. Alright then. I apologize again for my weird digestive issues, deciding they're not going to calm down for video here. But, you know, it's not like I can record this later. It's already past midnight, so I've got to get this on the computer, start processing so I can go to bed. But while I do that, y'all have a nice week.